For the next 3 days, I'll be eating nothing but these World War II rations. Why? Well, I'm a firm believer that there are some aspects of history that you can't fully understand from reading words in a textbook. For years, I've been finding new ways to put myself in the shoes of a World War II soldier to better understand what they experienced. And this one was only a matter of time because, as we all know, an army marches on its stomach. I've always heard that World War II era rations weren't very nutritious, became extremely repetitive, and left the soldiers who ate them feeling unsatisfied and unenergetic. But I want to find out firsthand what it was really like for the soldiers who had to live off these rations during the war. I am really not looking forward to this, but unlike the greatest generation, I have the luxury of doing this experiment for a set period of time in the comfort of my own home where nobody is shooting at me. So how bad could it really be?
I have a headache this morning. Very rubbery.
I still feel like crap.
I am crashing hard.
Now, obviously, I won't be eating actual rations produced during World War II. Most of that food would be completely inedible right now, and even if it wasn't, troops during the war weren't eating 80-year-old meals, so that wouldn't be an accurate test. Instead, I'll be eating these modern reproductions of World War II rations made by the company Hero Rations. These are some of the best reproductions that money can buy, and they will be perfect for this test. There are a few small differences that I'll point out as we go through this challenge, but many of the components are made from original World War II recipes. Even the packaging is recreated in great detail, and most important for this test, the nutritional content of these rations is spot on. Before I start digging into any of these delicious looking rations in front of me, let's set some ground rules for this challenge. Rule number 1. Of course, I can't eat anything other than these World War II rations for 3 full days. Rule number 2. During that time, I can only drink water, whatever drink mixes are included in these rations, and alcohol that a soldier could have gotten their hands on during World War II. I'm trying to match a soldier's diet here after all, so a little booze is a must. Plenty of modern brands were around at the time, but I chose this bottle of Johnny Walker in honor of 101st Airborne veteran Vince Speranza, who had some great stories about getting his hands on Johnny Walker during World War II. Cheers to you, Vince. Rest in peace. And rule number 3, I have to complete a different type of planned exercise each day to get myself moving and gauge my energy levels. I have a feeling I'll get a bit lethargic after living off these meager rations for 3 days, so this will force me to get moving a little bit and gauge how I'm feeling. Okay, I'd love to keep stalling, but I have to start eating these rations eventually, so I'll talk more about the specific types of rations I'm eating as we go, but for now, let's just get to it. The day before the challenge officially began, it finally started sinking in that this was going to suck. This seemed like such a great idea in my head, but as I started actually laying out my rations for each of the 3 days, it really started to sink in just how little food I was going to be eating. I really should have known that, considering that even the troops during World War II who grew up during the Great Depression often complained that these rations weren't filling enough. But maybe I just didn't want to think about it. Like a death row inmate, I chose my final meal, Chipotle, of course, and it tasted even better knowing what was coming.
It's not as good as a C ration, but I guess it'll do the trick.
I went to bed that night with a full stomach and high morale, ready to just tear into some K rations in the morning. As soon as I woke up, the challenge was officially underway and I sat down for my first meal. Let's dig into that first ration and get a glimpse at what I'll be dealing with for the next 3 days.
Early war breakfast K ration. Okay, time for my first meal of this challenge. I have in front of me a full K ration, which is 3 separate K ration meals. These are early war K rations, so this is what US soldiers would have been eating earlier during the US involvement in World War II. I have a breakfast, a dinner, and a supper unit. Back then, dinner was lunch, as we call it today, and supper was dinner, as a lot of people say. But I'll be starting with breakfast, of course, which I'm excited for because a lot of soldiers during World War II reported that breakfast was the best tasting meal out of all the K rations. I'm just going to carefully open this outer box here. You can see this waxed cardboard box. This was to keep everything dry. The waxed cardboard helps keep moisture out a little bit. Smells good. So it looks like we have a can here. This is chopped ham and eggs. That is our main entree for this meal. Then we have leaf mint gum. Then we have some cigarettes. I don't smoke, so can't really put those to use. And inside of here, it looks like I have some sugar tablets, some soluble coffee, thank goodness, because I need some coffee this morning. Biscuits and some other crackers, and then a little, is this a chocolate bar? Let's open it up and get a better look. And some kind of, it looks like chocolate and nut bar. I might have to look into what this is. I have a tree nut allergy. The chopped ham and eggs, I believe, was a pretty popular entree, but I will point out this is one discrepancy from the originals. This one does not have eggs in it. It's just chopped ham. But we'll make do with just the ham. I think that'll be just fine for this. Just note that I won't be eating the eggs. Let's open up this can and see how it looks. This is a modern can that has a tab like this. I don't believe the originals had that. Let's see how our ham looks. Oh God, it kind of looks like potted meat or something like that. I'm gonna go ahead and open up the coffee as well and put that in my canteen cup, and then we'll have a real feast here. I made my coffee just with some boiling water. Typically in the field, you'd heat some water on a little stove or in a fire or something like that. I also found out upon further inspection, this is a fruit bar, not a chocolate and nut bar as I thought. So I still don't know if it has any nuts in it, but I think it's just fruit, like dates, and maybe there's seeds in there or something, and those are the chunks I see. Let's dig in, and I guess I'll start by unwrapping these biscuits. You can see they're stamped Nabisco on there. Let's see what they taste like. Not what I expected. I thought that was going to be more like a crisp, like cracker. It was not crunchy at all. It's kind of a doughy, more like a compact bread biscuit. Let's stir up the coffee here and give that a try and see how the coffee tastes. Tastes like weak instant coffee. Maybe I added a little bit too much water to this. The main thing that makes me nervous is I think that coffee packet that I just made is all the coffee I get for the entire day. I might have a little less energy or get a headache or something, but I guess we'll find out. I'm just gonna enjoy this one cup I have. I'm kind of putting off trying the ham here, so let's just stir it up and dig in. You know, the flavor, really not that bad. The consistency is god-awful, but the biscuit helps mask that a little bit. I gotta eat it though, or I'm gonna just go hungry the rest of the day, so let's get this down. I think we've tried pretty much everything so far except for the fruit bar here. So let's crack the fruit bar open and see how that tastes. Tastes pretty good. Does taste like there's some kind of nut in there. Could be almond, I don't know.
It did. It did have almonds. That was my first time eating an almond in over a decade, and it actually led to me realizing that I'm not allergic anymore. I had zero reaction, so I actually finished that bar and ate another one the next day. That might sound crazy, and do not try that if you have an allergy, but my allergy doctor had actually suggested that I try carefully eating an almond because my blood test results showed that I might have outgrown my allergy. I did not plan on putting that to the test for the first time during this challenge, but hey, now I know I can eat almonds. Okay, back to breakfast. I just had to fill you guys in on that.
While I let that settle though, I'm gonna put in some work on the rest of these biscuits and ham and finish up my coffee.
That breakfast was, okay, it was pretty gross if I'm being honest, but it was the start of the challenge. I was excited and my morale was high. I had a feeling going into this that some of the food in these rations might be a bit, you know, unappetizing to say the least, but I made a deal with myself that no matter what, I wouldn't make a spectacle out of how disgusting the food was. A can of highly processed meat is far from what I would typically choose to eat for breakfast, but this is what troops back then really had to live off of, and my goal for this challenge was to do exactly that. This wasn't just a taste test for me, this was the food I had to rely on for sustenance. And when I thought about it that way, it made some of the less tasty meals a bit more palatable. The hunger ended up helping a lot with that as well.
All right, well, I'm pretty much done with the breakfast here. I still have a little bit of the fruit bar. I might save that for a little snack while I'm exercising or something later. I still have my piece of gum. Maybe same with that. I'll chew that between meals or maybe right after I'm done here to get the flavor of that ham out of my mouth. I mean, I'm not stuffed after eating that, but if I were on the front lines and I needed a meal that I could keep in my back pocket, I'd say this accomplished that pretty well. With that out of the way, I'll see you guys at my first exercise challenge.
While I was still feeling good, I decided to knock out the first day's exercise. Remember, this is to help gauge my energy levels and just how I feel overall for these 3 days. A real soldier in World War II may have done a lot more movement and burned a lot more calories each day than I will here, depending on their situation, so just keep that in mind. So my physical exercise challenge today will be resupplying this World War II anti-tank gun with ammunition. So a quarter mile away in the park behind me, we have stashed 3 ammo cans. First is a 30 cal ammo can that weighs about 10 pounds. Second is a 50 caliber ammo can. That one weighs about 25 pounds. And the last one is an artillery crate that weighs more than 50 pounds. I'll be starting right here at the anti-tank gun, and I'll have to run over to the ammo cans, pick them up one by one, and carry them back sequentially. So I'll be making 3 total round trips to supply this anti-tank gun crew with the ammunition they need. Without any further ado, let's get to it and grab some ammo crates. Cold air really hits you right in the asthma. All right, first can. This one isn't too bad. All right, first can delivered, but these boys are gonna have to feed their 50 cal, so let's go back for some more. All right, 2 down. This artillery crate is gonna be a bitch. Let's get it. Oh, this one's gonna be fun. Oh, all right. Well, we did it. Oh, that was much harder than I expected, especially that last box after carrying the 50 cal and the 30 ammo before it. I'm gassed after that. Can't say I noticed a significant difference in my energy levels from eating the K-rations so far, but I'm only 1 meal deep in this challenge, so I'm curious to see how that changes over the next coming days. And I think the exercise portions will keep getting even harder for tomorrow and the next day. Well, that wasn't too bad. I do have mild asthma, so that cold air is like my kryptonite, hence the Carl Wheezer impression you heard at times there. I had worked up quite the appetite at this point, so once I was back home, I sat down to enjoy my lunch, or dinner as they called it back then. Early war K-ration dinner. All right, it is dinner time, or lunchtime rather, and let me tell you, I am ready to eat. I'm not starving, but I'm definitely kind of having a midday crash energy-wise. I think that's partially because a lot of the calories in the K-rations come from sugar and things like that, combined with the fact that there wasn't much caffeine in that coffee and I just had that 1 little cup of instant. That's a lot less caffeine than I normally have, so I'm kind of crashing right now. I don't believe there's any caffeine or coffee in this dinner unit, but let's open this guy up and see what's inside. Oh, processed American cheese. Delicious. We have some matches in here, complete with the warning that says mosquito bites cause malaria. We got another piece of gum in here. Some more cigarettes, Old Golds. Again, I don't smoke, so I won't be putting those to use. Looks like more biscuits. Are these different types of biscuits? It looks like. Lemon juice powder. Wonderful. And granulated sugar. The lemon juice powder here was commonly known as battery acid during the war, and it was pretty much universally hated. It was an important component in the rations because it was a good source of vitamin C, which troops on the front line really needed. But man, this stuff was reportedly disgusting and gross to drink. We have some more biscuits here. These appear to be the crunchier of the 2 types I had for breakfast. And finally, we have these little chewy chocolate candies. So again, just more sugar. I'm going to start by making the drink powder here to see how that is. Ah, it did not dissolve in there. I think all the sugar is just sitting at the bottom of the cup. Let's try the processed American cheese here. Oh, I don't like the consistency. It's very rubbery. It's not bad.
pretty much just tastes like American highly processed cheese. Let's give one of these new biscuits a try. These taste similar to the doughy ones that I had for breakfast. Let's get our knife out and spread some cheese on these crackers. You can see this cheese is pretty much like rubber. It's not going to be very easy to spread here, but we'll do the best we can. You know, that's not too bad. I'll try some cheese on the other type of cracker here. It's way better on these kind of crunchy, crispy crackers than on those soft, doughy biscuits. I'll say that for sure. Well, there's only one thing left that I haven't tried, and it's these little Chocolattos. So let's see how those taste. Kind of tastes like a Tootsie Roll. It's like a square Tootsie Roll. Now all that's left to do is finish this delicious processed cheese meal here. That was a lot of cheese. I'm gonna eat one of these Chocolattos now for dessert and save the remaining 4 for later. I'll probably just snack on them throughout the day, and hopefully that helps prevent a major sugar crash that I probably would have if I ate this full packet along with the entire box of sugar and all the other sugar I've eaten throughout the day in these rations. So far though, the K-ration diet is going pretty well, and it hasn't been too difficult to stick to. I think that'll be harder and harder as the days go on. We're only 2 meals deep in the first day, so we'll see how that pans out, but right now, morale is high. I was so gung-ho about this challenge earlier today, but I am fading quickly.
That meal could have been a lot more filling, but these World War II K-rations weren't all that bad. At least so far. Now, you've already seen me eat 2 K-rations in this video, and I'll mention a number of other ration types here soon, so I think this is a good time for a super quick crash course on World War II ration types, just so we're all on the same page. A rations. These were bulk fresh foods and ingredients used to cook meals in field kitchens or in garrison. B rations. These were also bulk cooking supplies, but B rations were canned or otherwise preserved. C rations. These were canned operational rations that came in pairs of 2 cans per person per meal. D ration. This was a small calorie-dense chocolate energy bar that was used as an emergency ration and as a supplement for troops eating other rations. We'll talk about those a lot today. Now, logically, the next ration they developed should have been called the E ration, but that sounded too similar to D ration, so they went with K ration instead, likely in honor of the ration's creator, Dr. Keyes. K rations were developed as portable, lightweight alternatives to C rations, originally meant for paratroopers, but they ended up being used across the board. There were plenty of other ration types used during World War II as well, but the last common ration that I'll mention now is the 10-in-1 ration. These were popular since they offered a little more flexibility. They included both individual midday meals and bigger cans of food that could be divided up or used to cook large meals for a group of men. Now that we cleared that up, let's dig into another K ration.
Early war K-ration supper. I was hungry again, probably 30 minutes or less after that last meal. It filled me up a bit while I was eating, but all of the food was just junk. It was sugar and simple carbs and a can of cheese. And 30 minutes later, I was hungry again. Let's crack this open and see what we're working with. Corned pork loaf with carrots and apple flakes. Okay, I don't know what to expect with that. Another piece of gum. I did chew on one of the pieces of gum from the earlier rations to try to take my mind off of how hungry I was. We got some toilet paper, Waldorf toilet paper here. That is a necessity for sure on the front lines. Okay, I see bouillon powder in here. That is like a soup mix kind of. It says a vegetable protein derivative. I guess I'll be eating more D rations than I planned for during this challenge. And we got 3 big old crackers or biscuits. First, let's open up the pork loaf and see what it looks like and see if that seems like it would be an appetizing option. Oh, it smells kind of like the ham I had for breakfast. And it looks like the ham that I had for breakfast. Getting a sneaking suspicion this might be the same as the ham I had for breakfast. Yeah, it tastes the same as the ham I had for breakfast. I think they just doubled up on the ham and used that as a stand-in for the pork loaf. I was kind of hoping they had something a little different for the supper one, just for my own sake, for a little variety, but this'll do. I'm hungry enough to eat whatever. Next, let's open up this little D-ration here and see how that tastes. It's not that bad. I mean, it doesn't taste like a normal chocolate bar. You can tell that there's oats and I think it's maybe oat flour or something like that in there that makes it kind of mealy. But it really isn't bad. I'll save the rest of that for dessert. I think all that's left to do is finish up these crackers, my ham, and my delicious bouillon broth here. And that'll be my last meal for today.
This was my final meal of the first day, and it was at this point that I really started to realize how difficult this was going to be. I sipped that little canteen cup of whiskey to ease my sorrows, but man, at the end of the first day, things were already starting to get real, and it was only going to get worse from there. I was just completely drained, and I felt like I was running on empty all evening. I went to bed with a headache and an upset stomach and didn't sleep well at all, but hey, at least I had that tasty K-ration to look forward to first thing in the morning.
Late war K-ration breakfast. All right, it's the start of day 2, and today we are eating these delicious looking late war K-rations. These are the morale boxes, which are much more interesting looking. These cool designs were meant to boost morale, and I'm gonna need it today. I don't want to talk any longer. I'm starving, so let's crack open this ration and see how it is. If this is another can of ham in here, I'll be disappointed, but I can't say I'll be surprised. Well, it's a different colored can, so that gives me hope that it might be different. A common complaint of soldiers during the war was the repetition of getting the same rations over and over and over again when they were on the front lines. And even though they did expand some of the menus throughout the war and try to offer some more rations, there were many cases where soldiers ended up eating the same thing for days in a row. Let's see what else we got. Piece of gum, we got Wrigley's gum this time, that's a change. Oh, Chesterfield smokes in these later rations. Soluble coffee product, thank God. Otherwise, it looks like I have some of the same stuff from yesterday's breakfast. It looks like the same 2 types of biscuits in here. Looks like another fruit bar, which I guess I'll try eating that again since I survived eating it yesterday. Okay, well, I'm gonna go heat up my entree and brew up some coffee with some boiling water, and I'll be right back to enjoy my meal.
I know I just joked about looking forward to that K-ration breakfast because, I mean, you saw it, but I seriously had been looking forward to that little packet of coffee like you wouldn't believe. I normally only drink 1 or 2 cups of coffee a day, but still, only being able to drink that 1 packet of instant each morning on top of eating those rations really started to get to me. You best believe that the second I finished the last sip of that coffee, I was already looking forward to that little packet in my rations tomorrow. I was still pretty damn hungry after that breakfast. The hunger was kind of accumulating with time. Like, eating 1 or 2 unsatisfying meals is one thing, but after 24 hours of eating nothing but these rations, let me tell you, I was feeling it. For day 2, my challenge was to complete an obstacle course in a full World War II combat loadout. Oh! Take 2. The course wasn't too challenging, but being in all that gear definitely made it more difficult. I finished the full course in much less time than I anticipated, so I rested up for a minute and then ran the course a second time. I knew I had to try to redeem myself for that rope climb. I pride myself on being pretty good at climbing rope, but I just could not keep my grip with all that extra weight on me. Once I ditched my gear, I finally touched that top post, which was a very small but much needed win at this point in the challenge because let me tell you, my morale was really starting to dip. All I could look forward to in my mind was eating that next K-ration, which is kind of sad to say out loud, but it was true.
Late war K-ration dinner. Well, I am crashing hard after that exercise we did. I just don't have a lot of energy after eating the sugary snacks, crackers, and gross cans of food in these rations. I am starving though, so I am so ready to crack open this dinner unit. I'm not gonna yap any longer. Let me just get into this. Lots of sugar, caramels. I do love caramels. Some more of those big square biscuits, and battery acid. Lemon juice powder synthetic. Great, that's gonna be delicious. Oh, we got our Chesterfields here. I don't smoke, like I said, but maybe I need to start to keep my appetite down. And of course, our can is processed American cheese. Oh, and another stick of gum. I'm glad to have the morale box here because I don't know what I'd do without that. That's the only thing that keeps me hanging on. These funky designs on the morale boxes.
At this point, I was halfway through the challenge and it was only going to get harder from here. In fact, I think that night may have been the hardest part of this entire challenge. That night, I had some friends over for pizza and beer. Well, for everyone but me, of course. I had to stick to my K-Rations and Johnny Walker. Now, I'm not complaining about the whiskey, but man, once my friends arrived and everyone started digging into those delicious looking pizzas, along with Cheez-Its and all types of other snacks, it was just so tempting. It also didn't help that everyone was pointing out like, oh, you could cheat and nobody would ever know. But if you've ever watched my channel before, you know that cheating was never an option. If soldiers could live off these rations for way longer periods of time in far worse conditions during World War II, I could do it for 3 short days. After all, this was far from the first time I've suffered to learn about the past, and it certainly won't be the last either. As my friends ate their pizza, I sat down to enjoy my supper. It was kind of fun to have a live studio audience for once.
Late war K-Ration supper. Is that good?
That's good.
All right. Yeah. Okay. I am very ready to eat this supper K-Ration. I am starving. I haven't had anything other than... Sorry.
Please say you're withering.
I'm not going to say withering.
Love your vocabulary.
I am withering away.
Take 2.
Okay. I am so ready to eat this supper K-Ration right here. I feel really bad because I only have one. I don't have enough to share with everyone, and they have to watch me eat it. They're going to be really jealous. But let's crack it open and see what I got inside this one. Looks like some more bouillon powder, biscuits, and sweet chocolate. That's interesting. Yesterday I had a D-bar for supper. I'm curious how the sweet chocolate compares to the D-bar. If I had to guess, it's probably the same thing. Got my toilet paper. That's a crucial component.
Yeah, regarding the toilet paper, I can now understand why these rations only included a few sheets per day. I wasn't gonna bring that up, but these rations don't have nearly enough fiber, and things were not exactly moving normally for me during this challenge. So that's all I'll say about that.
And of course, the pork loaf, which I'm sure will just be the same ham entree that I had this morning. All right, well, I'm gonna heat this up a little bit and make that bouillon powder with some boiled water, and then I'll have myself a nice little supper here.
I had told my friends when they arrived that I had to stick to eating rations for a video project I was working on, but once I started eating, everyone was pretty shocked at just how unappetizing the rations were. Most of them said they were imagining something more like a modern meal ready to eat, so when I pulled out a can of what looked like dog food and started chowing down on it, which I did happily by the way because I was so ravenous at this point, they were pretty shocked. With that meal wrapped up, it's time we stop and talk a bit more about the D-ration, because I have been biting my tongue on this for too long. Most descriptions of the D-ration today make it sound disgusting, but that is far from accurate. So where did this idea come from? Well, the D-ration was a dense chocolate bar meant to be an emergency ration for survival, like in pilots' survival kits or for soldiers to carry in case they couldn't be resupplied. Chocolate was a great choice for this since it's so calorie dense, but the creators of the ration didn't want it to taste like a normal chocolate bar because they were worried that hungry troops might eat it as a treat instead of saving it for an emergency and eating it slowly for survival. One memo regarding the D-bar's development mentioned that the ration should taste a little better than a boiled potato. People today often use that potato quote as evidence that the army made this ration terrible on purpose and that it tasted gross. But that quote was just a guideline written before the final D-ration recipe was even created. When the rations were finalized, they weren't as sweet or decadent as normal chocolate, but they ended up tasting way better than a boiled potato. Not that boiled potatoes are even gross to begin with. How do I know this? Well, the D-bars from Hero Rations that I used for this challenge were made from the exact same recipe as the originals that soldiers ate during World War II. As you saw, I enjoyed the small D-bars I ate that were included in my rations during the challenge so far, D-bar, but I was so hungry that anything probably would have tasted good to me. So I decided to have a few of my friends who had just eaten their pizza try eating a piece of the infamous D-bar as dessert to see if they were actually as bad as some people today make them out to be. Again, this D-bar was made from the exact World War II recipe. So what did they think?
It's pretty good. It's sugary.
But the taste is actually like pretty sweet. That's not bad. And honestly, I kind of like it. It's a good flavor.
Would not reach for this at the grocery store aisle.
I would grab it off a grocery store shelf.
It's not as good as like a Toblerone.
It still has kind of like a dry kind of texture. It's pretty crumbly.
Kind of fudgy, very powdery.
To me, it tastes like from zebra cakes, like the chocolate on that. A little chalky. It's almost like a mixture of fudge, but hell, I'll take a second bite. That's pretty good.
I'm gonna go 7 out of 10.
Yeah, this reminds me a lot of, my family has a cookie recipe that is basically oats and peanut butter and chocolate, and it pretty much tastes exactly like that. They're my favorite cookies.
So there you have it. Was the D-bar harder, more crumbly, and less sweet than a normal chocolate bar? Sure. But was it gross or unappetizing? Not at all. The legendary YouTuber Steve1989MRE Info even made a video where he tasted an original D-bar made during World War II, and he had many of the same observations that my friends had eating this modern copy. Now, if you still don't believe me, take it from the soldiers who really ate these things on the front lines. One report from the US 3rd Army in November of 1944 reads, D-ration. This ration is very well liked, and in the opinion of the supply men and soldiers, it serves its purpose as a supplementary ration component. Now, of course, not every soldier felt that way, and some troops did just find the bars to be too hard to eat comfortably or didn't like the taste due to personal preference or because they got sick of eating them so often. I've also heard complaints that the D-ration could upset your stomach if you ate it too quickly. I didn't eat my D-bars very quickly during this challenge, but I did eat a lot of them and didn't have any issues despite normally having a sensitive stomach. With that said, it probably shouldn't come as a surprise that if you scarf down 600 calories of chocolate on an empty stomach, it might cause some discomfort. So no, the D-ration was not universally hated like many people say today. In fact, it was fairly successful as an emergency survival ration, a K-ration component, and as a chocolate energy bar for soldiers to snack on between meals. Alright, with that covered, let's quickly look at another ration component that I've neglected so far. A few of my buddies were kind enough to light up some of those cigarettes from my K-ration and share their thoughts since I don't smoke. It was also super windy that night, so this was also a great chance to put that K-ration matchbook to the test.
Oh, well.
Now, these World War II smokes were unfiltered, and none of my friends had tried unfiltered cigs before, so I was interested to hear their thoughts. What do you think? What do you think?
That's pretty flavorful, actually, compared to your Marlboro Red.
I like it.
This is much nicer than I thought it would be, actually. It's pretty smooth. It's more like kind of smoking a joint than like a regular like Marlboro modern cigarette.
Yeah. All right, no complaints here. This ended up being a great night despite the food temptations, and after putting a dent in that Johnny Walker, I once again went to bed with a growling stomach and a headache. I actually had a dream that night that I was opening a ration for this video, but instead of a little K ration, it was like a big plastic bin packed to the top with like sweets and crackers and all the stuff that I had been eating in this challenge. Yeah, I was starting to lose my mind, but I had a big day ahead of me, so I had to pull it together. In the morning, I didn't waste any time sitting down to eat my breakfast, and most importantly, have my coffee.
Day 3 of this challenge, and morale is low. I am very hungry. I have a headache this morning, probably from a mix of the Johnny Walker last night, not having any caffeine, and eating sugary and processed foods exclusively. I don't have high hopes for today. This is my lineup of meals. I have one C ration. The C ration comes in 2 cans, so this is 1 ration. I have my processed American cheese entree and partial dinner unit. The partial dinner unit was issued with a separate entree like this. I have a bonus entree here of chopped ham and eggs. And finally, I have another D-bar. I'm trying to think about how to parcel this out throughout the day. I'm so hungry, I almost just said I would eat the C ration for breakfast, but I don't think the rest is enough to carry me through the rest of the day. So I think what I'll do is eat the chopped ham and eggs for breakfast and maybe open up the partial dinner unit and eat some of the food out of there and then save the rest of this and the cheese entree and maybe the D-bar for lunch. And then for supper tonight, I can have my C ration here and whatever's left of the D-bar or anything else that's left over. I'm coming to the sad realization that I don't think there's any coffee in those rations. They're typically only in the breakfast rations, so unless it's in this partial dinner unit, which I don't have high hopes for, I don't think I'll have any coffee at all today. I feel kind of like that picture of Nixon waking up in the morning surrounded by wine or champagne bottles and reaching over them to grab one. Yeah, I could really use that cup of coffee. I'm gonna go prepare this with some boiling water and add some hot water to my bouillon powder as well, and then I'll be right back to finish my breakfast. On any other day, they would probably look disgusting, but I'm so hungry right now. Let's dig in here and see how this is. That's not very good. I mean, it tastes like a dehydrated egg, but again, I'm so hungry. I'm going for it.
I had only been awake for an hour at this point, and this day was already shaping up to be pretty rough. I was barely hanging in there at this point, but I had to keep it together because in the afternoon I had booked some range time to film a video for my channel. My plan was to eat my second meal of the day after we finished up at the range, then do my exercise for that day and eat a big supper when I got home. But nothing went according to plan. Looking back, I should have realized the timing of that plan made no sense and I wouldn't have time to do all of that before it got dark, but I had so much mental fog at this point from living off those damn rations that I just was not thinking straight. That became glaringly apparent when I showed up to the shooting range and realized that I had forgotten to bring all the guns I needed to film the video I was making.
And I got to the range and realized I didn't have the pistol. I didn't have this or my 1911 that I was supposed to bring either. I left both of them at home. The most important things to bring to the range. Thankfully, Mrs. World War Wisdom was able to bring them out. But that's just an example of the stupid mistakes I've been making because I can't think clearly when I'm only eating a few bites of crackers, sugar, and that canned crap every day.
That was pretty dumb, but I was just not firing on all cylinders at this point, and by the time we were done at the range, I was so ready to eat that dinner ration. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to stop and eat because the sun was starting to set and I had to go do my exercise for the day before the park closed. So I just had to suck it up and go hungry. Or I should say, even hungrier than I already was planning on being. My exercise for this final day was a 3-mile ruck, again in World War II gear. I had planned to go even further, but with the sun setting, 3 miles seemed like a reasonable distance to hit before dark.
All right, we're kicking off our ruck here. I have a 40-pound load inside of my World War II era mountain pack here. So not the heaviest rucksack, but it's as much as I was comfortable putting in here without ripping a hole in it since it's 80 years old. I did bring a D-bar and some crackers in my pocket, so I'm planning to just kind of munch on those as we go here. I need to munch on something because I just have no energy right now. I still have a headache. I still feel like crap. So let's get this ruck out of the way. We're nearing the end of the challenge. All we can do now is push through and look forward to the C ration that comes after this ruck.
Let me tell you, this ruck was tough. 3 miles doesn't sound like a lot, but after spending hours filming at the range and not eating a meal since my meager breakfast, I was running on empty. The only thing that kept me going was that light at the end of the tunnel. In the morning, the challenge would be over and I would finally be free to eat or drink whatever I liked. When I finally got home, I wasted no time tearing into this C ration.
Oh, guys, I am famished. I'm so hungry. All I've had since breakfast was that little piece of a D-bar, and breakfast wasn't exactly very filling, to be honest. So I am just so hungry, and especially after that ruck, I'm exhausted. I'm hungry, I'm exhausted, I feel like I could fall asleep right now. Or I could eat this delicious, hopefully, C ration. So let's see what we have here. Again, the C ration is 2 cans per meal, so one has an entree and one has the accessories. It says this is ground meat and spaghetti. We'll see how that is, I guess. Okay, we got, looks like 3 caramels, or are these the little, oh, I think these are the Chocolattos, or whatever they're called. We have cocoa beverage powder, okay. And then at the bottom, we have some round crackers in the tin that I'll eat with the spaghetti. Let me go hydrate this dehydrated food. I'll just hydrate it in my mess kit instead of the can. That way you guys can see it a little better. And then I'll eat my crackers, make my beverage powder in my canteen cup, and we'll be living large.
After the day I'd had, this C ration was a real treat. I can see why these were almost universally preferred over K rations when in static positions. They were more filling, they offered more variety, and they provided about 1,000 calories more per day than K rations. The C ration M units, which is the can with the entree in it, were also often heated in boiling water before they were handed out to the troops so they could enjoy a hot meal. That couldn't easily be done with K rations. Later that night, I ended up snacking on some of those leftover crackers I didn't get the chance to eat earlier, and at this point, I just could not wait for this challenge to be over. I turned in for another restless night and woke up with another headache, but at that point, I didn't even care. The challenge was over. As soon as I woke up in the morning, I ran downstairs and made the most delicious cup of coffee I've ever had in my life. I noticed that after eating so little for those few days, I got full very quickly. I had a small yogurt cup, a banana, and a little handful of Cheez-Its for breakfast, and after that, I felt as stuffed as I did after that big Chipotle meal I had before the challenge started. I guess my stomach was starting to get used to those tiny meals after 3 days. Even just that little meal and a few sips of coffee was enough to get things moving again, and I was reminded of something that Paul Woodage said when I went on his channel World War II TV recently.
If you've been on compo rations for a few days, and then you come off compo rations and go back to normal food, after a certain number of hours, you will deliver a compo baby.
Yeah, that same thing could be said for K rations as well. Once I finished my coffee from my awesome white phosphorus grenade mug that you can order using the link in the description to support my channel, I headed back to Chipotle to celebrate the end of what felt like the longest 3 days of my life. I love Chipotle, if you couldn't tell. Overall, this experiment was much more challenging than I expected, but even though it really did suck at times, it was a great learning experience for me, and I'm so glad that I did it. I knew going into this that I'd probably be hungry at times and that I'd have to eat some interesting meals, but I did not expect to be so lethargic and have so much brain fog after just a few days of living off these rations. This was something troops recognized during World War II as well, and one report that I found from the 114th Infantry Regiment credited the good physical condition of the unit's men with the fact that they only fed their troops K or C rations in absolute emergencies, and made every effort to provide the men with food from field kitchens even when they were on the front lines. I can definitely understand why they saw that as being so important now. 3 days isn't much, but it was enough to totally change how I view these rations. I will never be able to look at a photo of a World War II soldier eating rations the same way again, because when I do, I'll know what they were tasting and to an extent how they were probably feeling afterwards. I also do think it's important to note that these US rations were actually considered to be pretty revolutionary and advanced for that time. You saw how primitive those rations seemed in comparison to something like a modern MRE, but keep in mind that pretty much every military ration that came before this was even worse. Having a steady supply of rations that were compact, could be stored for long periods without spoiling, and provided enough food to sustain soldiers was a major advantage for the US military during the war. Sure, those rations certainly weren't comfortable to live off of and didn't provide much energy, but in times of necessity, they got the job done. US soldiers were often wondering if their next meal would come from a field kitchen or if they'd have to eat more of those K rations. But soldiers in many other militaries at the time were often wondering if they'd get supplied with their next meal at all. Huge thank you to Hero Rations for providing me with 3 full days worth of World War II rations to eat for this video. If you are a reenactor, history buff, filmmaker, or are just curious what your grandpa was eating during the war, check out their website linked in the description and consider picking up some of their fully edible reproduction rations. I also want to give a special thank you to my YouTube and Patreon members for supporting my work on this channel. My trench philosophers are holding the line as usual. Thank you guys for having my back and being out there in the trenches. It means a lot. My hotshot tier supporters who went above and beyond this month are Cross of Bayan, Hogjazoy, John Green, Corey Mahler, and Billy DTX. Thank you guys so much, and I even have 2 Time Traveler tier supporters to thank this month. Shin Godzilla and Hendrix, thank you both so much for taking the top spots and really going above and beyond to support my channel. It really helps out my channel and I appreciate it. With that said, thank you all for watching. Remember not to eat your D-bars too quickly, and I'll see you in the next one.